In the next few slides, I will discuss the history of planning this park, highlight critical commission direction that relates to the proposal, and review accomplishments and deliverables. Between 2003 and 2005, the concept for this park was first conceived in the Commission's Centennial Plan. After the adoption of the Centennial Plan, State Park staff began preparing an evaluation process to identify potential parks for future development. Once identified, several public meetings were held to explore a full range of potential experiences and supporting facilities suited to the property. Additionally, the Commission asked staff to consider options to formally name the park, and these efforts led to the development of a park concept. In 2006, we began crafting the State Park of Tomorrow. To envision this, state parks held the first in a series of public workshops where ideas for development, along with other hopes and concerns, were discussed with the public. Through this work, the nature within reach concept condensed development into a small footprint. This theme nestled the proposed development into an integrated network of trails, offering excellent interpretive opportunities, accessible viewpoints, and water access. In 2007, the Commission adopted the Miller Peninsula Vision Report. Unfortunately, the project was paused soon after the Commission adopted the concept due to the Great Recession of 2008. Let's flash forward to 2016, when the Commission adopted a statewide acquisition and development strategy. This document highlighted a gap analysis which identified Miller Peninsula as the most suitable for development based on needs, public support, opportunities and constraints, and readiness to proceed. This same year, planning staff also completed the interim trail plan for the existing 17-mile trail system. In addition to the governor's support in 2018, the state's 24th legislative district also supported development of Miller Peninsula to further enhance economic, environmental, and tourism opportunities in the North Olympic Peninsula. As a result, in 2019, the Commission selected Miller Peninsula as the next full-service state park. The project was paused again due to funding availability. By 2023, the project was reinvigorated with new funding. The Commission directed staff to restart the project and complete the master plan. On the next slide, I will walk you through the completion of major project milestones up to this point. "2023 was a very productive year. We initiated a hydrogeologic study to understand the water availability at the park and submitted the water right request to the Department of Ecology. We hired a consultant to write the master plan, developed an internal 2-year work plan, and initiated new public outreach methods. The first of those outreach methods included a statewide survey that received over 800 responses. The survey revealed that planning for the park should include overnight accommodations, add more trails, and provide interpretive elements. Planning staff also engaged the public at the Bighorn Outdoor Recreation Show in Spokane, Washington. This event gave us the opportunity to connect with recreationalists from across the state. Public comments garnered a similar response to the survey. Coupled with information received at other public meetings held near the park, the data obtained from these other statewide outreach efforts highlighted hopes and dreams as well as concerns. Public concerns were pragmatic in nature and fall mainly into 6 categories and include traffic on Diamond Point Road, overdevelopment, water availability, emergency response, climate change, and forest fires. Notice how these categories indicated by the graphic are separate and also overlap. For example, the availability of water is directly related to the ability to fight forest fires. Water availability is also needed to support recreational facilities. Another example relates to traffic on Diamond Point Road and the intersection of Highway 101. These traffic issues impact emergency response times, park access, and neighborhoods. These are just a few of the topics that will be addressed in the master plan and analyzed in the EIS. In 2024, we met with the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe and various stakeholders. Tribal communications have been productive, and they in turn alerted us to their development proposal near the park. Additionally, staff discussed emergency response issues with Fire District 3. Communication with the Backcountry Horsemen and Clallam County revealed support for the project. In summer, we received the final hydrogeologic report, which found that groundwater at the park is of high quality and can meet the demand for development. The water right permit was granted by the Department of Ecology in June of last year. Finally, staff began the process to rename the park and refine land classifications and long-term boundary. This land classification map highlights the recreation emphasis theme. For orientation purposes, north is up. The darker colors indicate the existing park extent. Land within the long-term boundary is illustrated by the faded colors. Regarding land classification, there are 3 shown here on this map. The purple or magenta represents recreation area, accounting for 433 acres dedicated to a mix of day use and overnight facilities. Resource recreation area in blue accounts for 719 acres set aside for less intensive recreation such as trail use, interpretive elements, and viewpoints. The green, defined as natural forest area, accounts for 1,732 acres. This classification seeks to provide protection to rare and high-quality plant communities, sensitive wildlife, and shoreline. The proposed long-term boundary and land use south of the park, as indicated by the faded colors, highlight our effort to connect and retain habitat corridors linking with existing federal and state lands to the south. We anticipate the long-term boundary to be refined further with additional input in the upcoming weeks. Now, this alternative is different from the previous map as it highlights a new theme with a focus on preservation and interpretation. The recreation area is smaller on this map compared with the previous slide and is represented by the purple and again magenta color. It includes 339 acres of land dedicated to a mix of day use and overnight facilities. The blue resource recreation area, or 452 acres set aside for less intensive uses. And finally, the natural forest area shown in green, it totals 2,088 acres, preserving even more forest land. Both maps influenced the design and layout of the master plan proposal, which you will see on the next slide. The master plan represents the approximate location of the proposed built environment with a smaller footprint. To clarify, this plan does not include a lodge, shopping, or swimming pools. What it does include is 73 acres, or approximately 2.5% of the total park land, to be dedicated to the development. It includes day use amenities such as a visitor center, nature playground, interpretive elements, additional trails, picnic shelters, and a multi-purpose open space area for community events and learning-based programs. In addition to the day use facilities, this plan includes RV camping, standard and bike and tent sites, standard state park cabins, equestrian and group campgrounds, 2 bunkhouses for youth field trips, and a state park first, 6 to 10 tree houses or freestanding structures sited among the trees. Now that we know what the proposed development footprint looks like, we can engage in a robust traffic study to understand the impacts of the proposed development on the surrounding area. In the next few months, we will be initiating a traffic study to analyze the potential impacts of park users and vehicle traffic from the proposed development on existing roadway infrastructure associated with Diamond Point Road, Highway 101, and surrounding communities. And now I would like to talk about next steps and what the future of the project looks like. In 2025, we will dive deeper into the details of the master plan development, creating a preferred development map. We will also be compiling all previous research and reports in order to prepare for the EIS. We will continue to have conversations with the tribes, WSDOT, and neighboring counties to discuss roadway concerns at Highway 101 and Diamond Point Road. We will meet with DNR and representatives of the Point No Point Treaty Council to review the proposed long-term boundary maps. We will continue tribal collaboration on park naming. And finally, there will be additional opportunities for public engagement, including public meetings to review the maps and development proposal, which will be analyzed in the EIS. Our goal in this planning process is to give the public ample opportunity to have their voices heard and shape the development of the park in a way that balances recreational goals with natural and cultural resources. This is achieved in part through the environmental impact statement process. The EIS will analyze impacts of this proposal on the landscape by examining specific issues shown on the next slide. On this slide, you will see a mix of completed studies and reports that discuss the many facets associated with the property. Everything from vegetation studies to cultural resource investigation. This stage brings together all of this information. However, due to current budget constraints, the EIS will be on hold until further funding is made available again. In the meantime, park staff will continue to work with tribes, partners, stakeholders, and the public to finalize the land classification and long-term boundary map, complete the traffic analysis, and work towards a short list of park names. In closing, the story of Miller Peninsula planning is one of starting and stopping for various reasons, some economic, others due to competing priorities. But despite this, we have accomplished a number of milestones required to advance the planning project to near completion. In the near term, we will develop the master plan enough to be poised to explore environmental impacts that would in turn allow us to move forward with pre-design and phased construction of a new park. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Lauren. Any questions? Commissioner Williams?
Well, I just sort of, I guess, maybe just for starters, a question perhaps maybe for you, Director Dupuy. I mean, yesterday we spent the day on the Hill meeting with legislators. It's a difficult budget session. And in light of that, I'm wondering what makes the most sense for our organization, given what we're facing.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. We've certainly taken a look at what our workload is like and understanding the state budget situation and what impacts that may have on parks. It could have a serious impact on the projects that we can devote time and energy to. So while I don't have anything conclusive, I think that these are the types of projects where we'd be waiting for funding from the state to move forward. We need to understand what that landscape looks like. And then if whatever impacts the state funding has on us, then we have to relook at what our workload looks like. And projects like this will certainly be, or could potentially be compromised by that.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. But I guess, we have already saw a significant cut in our capital budget request from the governor's proposal. We have lots and lots of deferred maintenance, many capital budget needs. And I guess after our conversation with Senator Chapman, I'm still sort of wrestling with what's the right direction.
There certainly is. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here. We have a lot of work that we're already committed to, and we've had some emergent situations arise in the last year that have sort of rewritten our responsibilities at state parks. So this is a time where we can kind of step back for a moment and say, okay, this may not be a priority for us any longer today. The budget situation coupled with just our own ability to handle the workload. And certainly our conversation with Senator Chapman was illuminating.
Okay. Commissioner Merriman?
What's the shelf life of a master plan?
I might ask Nikki to come up and answer that. I can make an educated guess, but you probably should hear from the subject matter expert. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So it varies and it depends upon what's included in a master plan. But just as an example, with the Nisqually State Park Master Plan, we completed that work and the commission approved the plan in 2010. And then it too, just like Miller Peninsula, was put on hold due to the recession. And we began work again around the same time, 2016, on Nisqually. And our first development happened then in 2016. And that was just an initial park development and a little parking lot. We are now in progress, under construction on our first major developments at Nisqually. So we're 15 years out from that master plan approval, and the master plan is still guiding this work that we're doing today. So I think that getting to a completed or almost completed master plan on Miller Peninsula will allow us to then pick it back up in the future.
Anyone else? I have one question. You referred to the Scalum Tri development, and do we know what their timeline is? And is that the piece I was just wondering where it is in location to our property? If
Okay. I think my mic is muted.
No, we can hear you.
Oh, it's not? Okay. I had a notice that said I'm muted. So the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe has multiple land holdings, but the one that they're currently looking at future development, which we have limited detail on that, but it is going to be, what we've heard is that it's going to be located at this southern portion, just north of Highway 101. And we don't have a whole lot of details on that, but it could possibly include RV camping for large RVs. And so we want to be very cognizant that we don't have competing offerings. And so, keeping those open lines of communication and dialogue with the tribe to make sure that we're not doubling up, but also being respectful to each other. But it looks like it would occur within that southern portion of their property, just north of Highway 101.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Further question, Commissioner Williams?
So we have the master plan here. What would be, assuming the legislature were to fund at a lower level, what would be the possibility of doing more like a much smaller tent camping area with bathrooms, maybe at larger days parking? Can we scale down and sort of go up incrementally given the current master plan?
So the first step that we would need to do is complete the EIS. And that would likely require the current funding at that would be somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 to complete an EIS. We can't move forward with any kind of development until that happens. That EIS would analyze different levels of development that could be done inside the park. For example, a smaller scale, maybe just some tent sites, all the way up to a full service state park. The phasing or building of the actual construction of the park could start, even if the EIS found that a full service park was the right direction to move, we would have phased construction, and construction could take anywhere from 10 to 20 years. So you could start with the smaller area. You could start with just bike and tent sites and some of the basic utilities, and not move forward until additional funding is approved. And that's kind of how the phased in construction would work anyway, because of how expensive it is to build a park from the ground up.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's really good to know. There was a letter from the Backcountry Horsemen that I imagine you've seen, and I just was just curious, like, I don't understand all the details because I'm not super familiar with the trail system. Although, let me back up a sec. I should note, just kind of for the record, that some of us here were at an open house that we had at the up at Miller Peninsula area. What was that? I want to say October of 2022. It was very well attended. We heard lots of public comment. So, really, staff was really great at that event. We heard lots of public concerns. But anyhow, with all that aside, just curious what the concerns that the Backcountry Horsemen brought up, how that is impacted by the master plan.
So we've actually been working pretty closely with the Backcountry Horsemen. I have met specifically with them on site to discuss their hopes, dreams, concerns for the park. They are a very integral part to this park. They currently upkeep the existing trail system. It's a heavily used equestrian park, and we want to make sure to include amenities that continue to offer equestrian riders the use of the park. In the southern portion, and I'll kind of fast forward over to here, in this kind of center south, the yellow and orange overlapping bubbles, that would actually be a proposed area for equestrian campground. And we have worked with the Backcountry Horsemen to identify what kind of elements would be appreciated in overnight accommodations for equestrian users. We have cited out new trails to improve the existing trail system to offer longer rides. And we would really love to continue to work with them to enhance the trails and just move forward, making sure that this stays an equestrian park. But it would also offer mountain biking and pedestrian day use facilities as well. So we definitely are keeping in mind a lot of the things that we've learned from them.
I can add a little bit more to this one if Lauren, you could go back to one of the land class maps.
Sure.
So their concerns in their letter were related to land classifications, and they, I think it was a misunderstanding because they brought up that the trails, equestrian trails or multi-use trails need to be in a resource recreation area or a recreation area. And when they saw these maps with the large natural forest areas, they were concerned that that would mean that there could no longer be equestrian trails within those areas. But if you look closely on this map, there are blue lines through it. Those blue lines are intended to be resource recreation corridors for the existing trail system within the park. So it's just this, blue on green is a little hard to see. It's pretty small, but there is no intention of disallowing equestrians on the existing trails in the park. There has been some discussion in one of the alternatives about having some new trails that might be pedestrian-only trails in some particularly sensitive areas, but all of the existing trails were intended to stay open to equestrian use.
I promise,
Nope,
just one more
time.
question.
No, we have time.
That's
Good.
really helpful. Thank you, Nikki. That was great.
Yeah.
The parking lot at the west side is nothing special. and in fact, I'm not really quite sure how somebody pays for a Discover Pass there. But anyhow, once the EIS is done, is there a possibility if we had a little bit of funding to improve that?
Yeah, so we have discussed, and as part of the master plan discussions, improving that parking area. Space is limited, but it could certainly be better than it is. And that could be another similar project to the initial project there at Miller Penn to develop the first parking lot. So that is a possibility.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Nikki. That was very helpful. And we will go to our second agenda item, the Lake Sammamish planning update, and I will call on Heather as I was supposed to before. Says.
Thank you. Michael Hankinson, our planning manager, is here to share with you details about the update to the Lake Sammamish master plan and management plan specifically.
Thank you.
And Melinda Posner.
Now again.
Melinda is here because she'll be taking over the project. I began the project several years ago, so there'll be a bit of a handoff here today. So good morning, members of the commission. This presentation is on the master plan update at Lake Sammamish State Park, which actually began in 2018. The original purpose of the 2018 update was to review a suite of new development proposals. There were so many to consider coming from local governments and various outside groups that it became necessary to discuss and evaluate their feasibility as a unit. This presentation tells a story of how this process evolved over the past several years. We'll start with a description of the park, next explain how an update of the management plan best supports the Commission's vision of the park. We'll also discuss the existing ball fields and their future. Before proceeding, some quick definitions on master plans and management plans and some key Commission priorities, which will make it easier to follow the presentation. To 3. Okay. A master plan provides a long-term vision and overall framework for future development. It investigates issues, drafts alternatives, evaluates solutions, makes recommendations on alternatives, and can include an implementation plan for capital improvements on funding. Usually includes mapping that spatially locates site planning issues, as well as design proposals. It creates goals for large areas and suggests development projects. The 2007 master plan envisions the park as a showcase of wetlands and native habitat. It offers developments that are compatible with that vision. A management plan focuses on specific actions to address issues such as beaver management or big picture strategies that are needed to implement the goals of a master plan. It could include suggestions on day-to-day operations and short-term and long-term projects. It can also create management approaches to address significant issues. For example, a management plan can include criteria to vet new development and future proposals at a Lake Sam. It can help shed light on a project's viability, feasibility, and alignment with Commission goals. Speaking of Commission goals, there are several strongly related to this project. In 2023, the Commission asked staff to develop a critical path schedule and to proceed with project plans for Lake Sammamish. As I mentioned, the update for the master plan began in 2018 when staff engaged the public, local governments, partners, tribes, and stakeholders to investigate if Lake Sammamish could be further developed. This process stalled, however, in the following years during the pandemic, but began again in late 2022. Other Commission priorities on climate resiliency resonated and seemed directly related to Lake Sam. For instance, the Commission promotes efforts to protect resources while responding to changing climate phenomenon and reducing our impacts. By the end of this presentation, we'll better understand how we participate in climate change and how changes in the built environment at Lake Sam could tip the balance either way, how more or less development could make the park more resilient or less resilient to climate change. First, an overview of the park's built and natural environment. Lake Sammamish receives about 2 million visits a year. It is 524 acres, less than a square mile in size. 30% of the park is developed to accommodate those visitors. Just to provide a sense of scale and perspective, in 2023, Mount Rainier National Park received about 2.5 million visitors. Mount Rainier is 236,380 acres, or 370 square miles. Back at Lake Sam, there are over 2,200 parking stalls. It also provides 9 boat launch ramps and is the only public launch serving Lake Sammamish. There are currently 9 soccer fields surfaced with grass. The built environment is supported by a park with 3 creeks, the biggest being Issaquah Creek, which runs down the middle of the park. Laughing Jacobs Creek is north, and Tibbetts Creek is south. 400 plus acres out of the 524 are wetland or wetland buffer. There is 6,800 feet of shoreline. It was based on these natural qualities that the Commission established a vision for the park in 2007. And the Commission phrased it as sustainability as park purpose. In 2005, the Commission recognized the park's most important attributes, prioritizing natural areas surrounded by urban development. It articulated what this park should be in the future. The Commission foresaw the park as a statewide model for engaging the public in protection and restoration of urban natural areas. So out of our 124 park system, this park would serve as the best example that protects and restores urban natural areas. By 2007, the Commission reaffirmed their vision. Lake Sammamish State Park will be Washington's signature park for protecting and celebrating urban natural areas. The vision elevated conservation goals and passive visitor experiences. Natural environment, its main attraction, creating access to showcase regionally significant wetlands and wildlife habitat. And as you'll see on the next slide, Lake Sammamish State Park's wetlands and streams are valuable in other significant ways. For instance, the stormwater associated with the watershed and urbanization that surround the park drain to one place, which is this park, via its 3 streams and wetlands. The following map will help you visualize that system. For orientation, the dark blue is Lake Sammamish. The red line represents the park. The black boundary shows the city of Issaquah. The 100-year floodplain is shown in lighter blue. As you can see, the park accepts the floodwaters and conveys them to the lake. In this light, the park is a component of the engineered stormwater system for the city of Issaquah. Today, the park helps prevent flooding upstream in surrounding urban areas. This map, provided by the Nature Conservancy, was derived using their resilient land mapping tool. The park is considered most resilient, shown in dark green. By contrast, the surrounding urban area, indicated in gray, is least resilient due to development within the surrounding watershed. To be resilient means that the park is adaptable in its current state to forces of climate change. Rain events of higher intensity and duration can occur, and the park will survive it. This map overlays the two previous maps. Putting them together, notice how Lake Sammamish State Park is most resilient because it soaks up stormwater like a sponge. It then conveys floodwaters somewhere else, which is to the lake. Flooding upstream may occur, however, if Lake Sammamish were made less resilient with more extensive development inside the park. This is one way the park and the surrounding urban area are vulnerable to climate change. A different theme, using the resilient land mapping tool, illustrates recognized biodiversity value. The Nature Conservancy recognizes biodiversity values in places with rare species, intact habitat, or exemplary natural communities. Lake Sammamish State Park is associated with the biodiversity of Cougar Mountain. As you see, this patch of land is already cut off from the foothills of the Cascades due to development. Lake Sam is an essential component of this island of biodiversity. And as you might expect in a growing urban area, not all biodiversity is flourishing. Kokanee salmon in Lake Sammamish once numbered in the tens of thousands. However, since 2007, the number of returning spawners has dipped below 150 fish 8 different times. The risk of their extinction from this watershed remains high. But there is hope for Lake Sammamish State Park to play an important role in kokanee salmon recovery. The dark blue lines represent area streams that serve as primary spawning streams. Note that Issaquah and Tibbetts Creeks are lighter in color since they currently only offer potential spawning in a larger stream. Managing Lake Sammamish State Park in a manner that improves kokanee habitat is not only good for fish, but also creates opportunities for our visitors to recreate in a healthy ecosystem rather than a degraded one. Additionally, as I learned at a tribal kokanee release ceremony in 2023, that the recovery of the species is also deeply important to tribes. Recovery of the land is already underway with many ecological improvements. Since 2007, huge investments have been orchestrated by our partners, improving the park's most valuable attributes, its wetlands, and over 20 watercourses that feed its 3 creeks, including Issaquah Creek and shoreline on Lake Sammamish. Mountains to Sound Greenway Trust have organized countless stewardship work parties intended to save salmon habitat and to preserve a natural landscape that has otherwise vanished on Lake Sammamish. Importantly, this restoration has provided an improved setting for visitors to experience nature more fully. Let me provide you with some statistics that demonstrate how much support this park has from the community. 62 acres restored since 2007. To help you visualize this, 62 acres roughly translates as 47 football fields. 65,000 native trees and shrubs were planted by 20,000 community volunteers. 85,800 hours of volunteer time equaling 1.7 million of in-kind value. And more than $5.5 million in grants and financial support was secured to date from businesses, foundations, cities, King County, the state, and federal sources. Finally, public water access was also enhanced with the completion of Sunset Beach, the children's playground and bathhouse, an innovative building designed to integrate into the landscape with places to picnic under shelter and including restrooms and showers. Each one of these little areas of land that you see represent individual efforts that have made the park better overall. Today, it is a more ecologically functional place and offers better recreational opportunities as a result of the 2007 Commission Plan. And of course, there is more work to be done. Other partners are investing in restoration of the park, including Trout Unlimited. They have secured funding to realign Laughing Jacobs Creek to aid in salmon recovery. Which brings us back to the Commission. How does Commission policy direct management of places like Lake Sam? The Commission Comprehensive Natural Resource Policy, Watershed Perspective, states the agency will help to protect these habitats by minimizing functional impacts to them and the processes they perform. In addition, state parks will ensure its actions do not contribute to a net loss in the acreage or function of the state's wetlands. State parks will limit construction in or impacts to wetlands, except where consistent with Commission-adopted park plans. And importantly, except where it is necessary to provide access to a significant public interpretive or educational opportunity and conditions allow for mitigation of impacts. Now that we have more information on the park and a better understanding of its value, I want to explain how the 2007 master plan remains relevant by comparing it with the proposed 2018 update. Beginning with the 2007 vision, this list of concepts comes from the Commission adopted plan. As you scan down the list, notice the mix of restoration and recreation goals. From natural resources restoration to interpretive and education facilities, there is an emphasis on the park's natural landscape, rowing and fishing, picnic areas and rustic group camp, regional trail center and docks, and camping. This list is characterized by ecological restoration and more passive recreational experiences. These new projects came forward in 2018 through a combination of local government and various entities to further develop the park. And at the time, it seemed important to organize the various proposals into a single discussion. The original idea for the 2018 update then was to accomplish two goals. One, reevaluate proposed projects from 2007 to determine if they remain relevant and feasible. For example, should the urban campground concept be eliminated in the light of new information on wetlands and other factors? And two, consider new proposals, including organized sports fields, ropes course, swim gym, entrance and fire station, to determine if they were compatible with the Commission's vision and feasible. This is why staff moved forward with locating wetlands and estimating mitigation costs for these specific projects. Wetland delineation was completed in 2022 by the Watershed Company. For orientation, the park's wetlands are shown in aqua. The stream's wetlands and buffers in darker blue. Staff overlaid the development proposals with wetland data. For instance, we reviewed the proposed sports complex, which is located on the southern end of the park in the middle of the image. About half the sports complex is in a stream wetland buffer, with the other half located in a wetland. We then reviewed the other development proposals, with exception for the Tibbetts area and the fire station. The other proposals are sited in wetlands or wetland buffers. And according to Commission policy, unless there is an important overriding consideration, wetlands are typically avoided for developments like sports fields. The next slide reveals the estimated costs to mitigate these proposals. This is the high-level cost analysis provided by Herrera, based on the medium intensity alternative shown on the previous slide. These costs are not capital costs to build, just mitigation costs. I want to draw your attention to the multi-sports athletic fields. This alone would cost nearly $50 million to mitigate, not including the expensive capital costs of building in a wetland. In summary, the 2007 master plan is relevant and aligns proposed developments with the Commission's vision in a location that already receives 2 million visitors a year. Based on new wetland extent and mitigation cost data, the 2018 proposal includes several projects now considered infeasible. But as is always the case, State Parks does not operate in a vacuum. The park is located within the boundaries of Issaquah, and there are existing grass surface ball fields currently used for soccer that the city would like to utilize to meet their own active recreation goals. Lake Sammamish State Park is identified in the 2024 Issaquah Park System Capital Improvement Program. The city of Issaquah wants to build new organized sports facilities that could be used year-round. According to the Issaquah Parks Director, however, development of multi-sports fields at Lake Sammamish does not represent their highest priority. Instead, the city is focusing on their more short-term goals to further develop fields that already exist in their own city parks and local schools. For clarification, the Commission has already provided direction on the agency's role when local governments or organizations come forward with requests to build sports fields on state parks lands. The Commission stated in 2007 that no additional state park lands will be dedicated for athletic fields for scheduled athletic use. But this is where we enter the gray area. The City of Issaquah and local soccer clubs represent an ongoing use, and according to the Commission, state parks will continue to allow existing facilities and honor existing partnerships. State park staff have worked closely with the City of Issaquah to address their needs. There is a fuller understanding now that the city may someday create a proposal that finances site analysis, planning, design, environmental review, mitigation, and construction of sports field improvements. These new proposals will likely be much smaller in scale due to the numerous environmental constraints, mitigation, and construction costs. The city would bring this forward for staff review and commission decision. Note that the commission places the burden of development on the soccer club or entity bringing a proposal forward. The soccer club currently has a lease to operate the existing ball fields through 2029. The commission added, however, that modifications to existing athletic fields cannot significantly impact the park. And regarding year-round use, addition of field lighting, artificial turf, and permanent seating also require commission approval. Regarding the images on the slides, the Lake Sammamish ball fields are shown on the left. Those are the grass fields. The image on the right is a typical example of a multi-sport field, and this one is in the nearby city of Sammamish. In addition to the City of Issaquah's athletic needs, there are also many changes since 2018 that influence the path forward at Lake Sam. For example, improvements to the park, especially at the beach, have made it a more accessible park than ever, and coupled with COVID lockdowns, visitation dramatically increased. There is also a renewed understanding of the commission-adopted vision for the park, and the Nature Conservancy climate resiliency data has focused attention on the value of the park as an integral component of city stormwater management and as a key location supporting diverse numbers of species. Finally, the population of our state has increased by 2 million people since the establishment of the 2007 master plan. Most of this growth has occurred in the Puget Sound region. 1 million more people will live in Washington by 2038. Given the population increase, the park's natural environment is vulnerable because there are fewer places to build. There's more pressure to view wetlands and buffers as open space for development rather than for conservation. The path forward requires criteria added to the management plan based on the mission of the park to evaluate the merit of future development proposals. Are proposals aligned with the purpose of this park? Are they compatible with existing natural systems? There are other changes that should be integrated into a management plan update, including universal access design goals and diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. We can also be more intentional about reestablishing kokanee habitat by engaging tribes. We can consider how to reduce the parking lot footprint and find ways to reduce our recreational impacts on the park to make it even more sustainable. Sustainability as park purpose. In 2007, the Commission created a vision for future generations to enjoy Lake Sammamish State Park as Washington's signature park for protecting and celebrating urban natural areas. Moving forward, Melinda Wolfman will address these issues by facilitating a planning process, resulting with an updated management plan. I'd like to introduce her to you now.
Michael. I'm trying to look at this slide and the next slide. So the path forward, reaffirm and promote sustainability as park purpose. Pivot from the master plan update in EIS and update the management plan instead. So I'm just going to say a few things about that. The planning team is currently evaluating our classification and management planning process, which we call CAMP, and those products, one of which is the management plan. A desired outcome is to make the plan more relevant to today and also more useful as a tool for staff, particularly in the field. So as Michael mentioned in the previous slide, we're looking at including clear parameters for future proposals, what might come forward to us from volunteers for restoration projects, also commercial uses, what kinds of special activities are consistent with sustainability as park purpose. So we've started the process. We've had 3 project team meetings, and we'll be hosting a partner work group meeting next week on February 6th. So the partners include the City of Issaquah, the Mountain Sound Greenway, some of our other restoration partners, and the Friends of Lakes Sammamish as well. We'll be working with that group over the next several months to develop the management plan. And I look forward to providing you with an update later in the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And do we have any questions? Oh, comments too? That's, we're open to that.
My partner, John, left the room. In
Oh.
October, John and I had the privilege of going to the park to participate in the Kokanee release release this year. What a fabulous experience. I got to represent the commission on the stage and tell them all kinds of cool things. Here's a little unknown thing about me. I learned to swim when I was this tall at that park. Yeah,
All right.
it's a pretty cool place and long memories there.
So there are existing soccer fields there, right? Or not? Okay.
There are 9.
And where are they in the wetlands? There was, want to make sure I'm looking at the right
Yeah,
slide
we'll
here.
go to a map here and we can
Yeah.
walk you through that. Okay, this is a good map for that. Yeah. Wanted to show her that.
Right, there's
Because there was one that was the
Aqua.
proposed soccer
right.
fields, but then where are the existing ones?
they're in here.
Yeah, the
Ah.
proposal would be to use the same footprint of for the fields, so they'd be in the same location. And so this is the field right here.
This is a proposed.
That, yeah,
No, there's fields there.
Hold on.
there's fields there
Okay,
too.
both
Yeah.
places. Can I go
I
forward to
can, I
one?
can, there's 2.
Let me go to one.
There's
on
2
your
different
slide.
places with fields, yeah.
May I? And then
Okay.
Nikki, I'd be happy to turn over to you. I just want to,
It's
Get to
been a
the-
long time since I've been to this park.
this one
so-
right here. So this, I
Yeah,
guess this is a little bit more specific to, yes, existing ball fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's 2 areas of fields. The main fields are in this area, and then there are 2 fields over here. The soccer club hasn't been using these fields for the last year or so because they're wet.
Well,
So that was going through my head.
So if you go back to the blue map, and look at the main fields.
there we go.
So the boundary of the soccer fields is this line here, and the wetlands are the lighter blue color,
Yeah.
and the wetland buffers are the darker blue color. So almost, other than the parking area, almost the whole area is either a wetland buffer or a wetland.
Gotcha.
It's just problematic to build in those conditions.
Sure.
Yeah.
So follow-on question, has this presentation been shared with the City of Issaquah Parks and Recreation Commission?
Oh, yes. We wouldn't have done this without working with them closely. So the process involved working with all of the partners
Mhm.
and friends, as well as the city, to have really intense, robust conversations about the future of this park and its mission. One of the things that we kind of established, I think, with the city is that the vision for this park has to, like new developments, just have to be compatible with it.
Mhm.
And we need to work together in order to get there. And the city has relied on the open space at this park, though, for decades. It's totally urbanized, and there are fewer and fewer opportunities for sports fields, things like that. So we have been working with them, and I had a conversation just last week with the director of parks to ensure that what we were saying today was okay with them and that we were on the same page, and we are.
Okay. So there's a recognition that putting soccer fields on wetlands is probably not a great idea.
Definitely recognized, and that it's very
Okay.
expensive.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I want to say like maybe back in the day, my son or I played a soccer tournament there, but
Mhm.
anyhow,
Yeah,
times change.
I played soccer there also, tournaments, as a child.
Any further comments? Commissioner Latimer?
I was just kind of curious. I mean, if you've got 9 boat lanes or boat launches there, that must mean you have a lot of probably boat traffic in that lake.
Yeah.
So what is the impact environmentally on the water and the, the kokanee recovery efforts if you have all these boats out there? And I'm sure there's a certain amount of that exhaust and oils and stuff like that that go into the water from all the marine traffic.
There are impacts from the boats. Definitely, it's a point source pollution issue. There's oil and heavy metal, of course, associated with cars, but also we have more information about rubber tires and how those produce chemicals that affect salmon habitat as well. So our very large parking lots that expand along near to the shoreline, as well as the boat launch actually, and that's a big parking lot, that is all affecting habitat, definitely. And that's what we mean when we talk about making the park more sustainable over time. Are there alternatives to some of the parking that we could look at? As far as the boat launch goes, it is the only launch to the lake for the public. So despite the fact that there are impacts due to the boat launch, it's needed by everyone, including tribes, actually, to access the lake. So we have quite a responsibility there.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We are ahead of schedule. I know, and originally our break was going to be at 10:35 and it's only 10:05, but I think we will take a break. Can we reconvene if we reconvened at 10:30? Okay, we are going to take a break. We will reconvene at 10:30. Thank you. Okay, good morning. We're going to reconvene our meeting and we are going to hear next about the Discount Pass program. And Claire DeLong, our communications director, is going to introduce the presenters.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Great. Hi, for the record, I'm Claire DeLong. I'm the communications director here at Parks. And with me, I have Carrie Murphy, who's our visitor services manager, and I have Ariel Ryan, who is our Discount Pass program and permits manager. For context, Carrie manages the team that do Discount Pass programs and permits, as you could have guessed, as well as our information center team and the central reservation system. And Discover Pass. Thank you. Just that minor detail. So today we wanted to give you an update on the Discount Pass programs. This team, I will not take credit for their amazing work, have been working on various iterations of looking at these programs to find ways to shore up the program integrity, meaning making sure that these programs are really serving the populations they're intended for, as well as opportunities for some revenue optimization that still maintain the integrity of the programs. This work has been ongoing since probably before I started working here at Parks and has gone through various iterations. You may remember they were both here a couple summers ago with some great work they did on the foster family pass, which is increased participation in that program. So a lot of great work's been going on. It's been a little hard to get some solid traction on bigger changes. So over the last sort of year, we had been looking at particularly one idea that's discussed in this group not infrequently, which is the idea of a limited income pass. So right now we have the senior limited income pass. What would it look like to expand that pass to be a limited income pass regardless of age? And help move us forward in our goals around sort of broadening the populations that are being served, bringing in more youth, that sort of thing. I'm providing this context because a lot of this work was done before the current budget situation. So our presentation looked a little different a couple months ago. And we've pivoted, which is what we are good at doing. So what you're going to see here today are a couple things. We really are coming with considerations for you. And what we hope to get out of this conversation is sort of some direction for the work on this for the year. We have some specific considerations that, if you wanted to move forward with some or all of them, would turn into formal recommendations, and we'd come back to this group with some extra detail on those considerations. Also wanted to open up the conversation around the limited income pass, thoughts around that given the current climate, and just kind of keep that on the radar, because while the budget situation has changed, our priorities have not changed, and we don't want to lose sight of what a pass like that could do for this agency. So that's really what we're kind of talking about here. And I think with that, that's it. I'll pass it off to Ariel.
Great. Good morning. Thanks for having us here today. So today we'll be discussing strategy options for the future of the Discount Pass program. Understanding that we have staff and budget constraints, we're presenting these options and considerations. And with the understanding that these changes do require staff involvement. Our goal today is to share this information regarding revenue and program integrity and get your feedback and direction. A quick overview. Parks offers 5 discount passes for Washington State residents, all with varying benefits, which I'll go over quickly. The Lifetime Disabled Veteran Pass is available to veterans with a 30% or higher disability rating, and it gives free camping, including fees. The Disability Pass is for individuals receiving disability benefits, offering 50% off camping. The Foster Family Pass is available for those who provide care to a child outside their home and offers free camping with fees. The Senior Limited Income Pass for individuals 62 or older on a limited income, offering 50% off camping. And finally, the Senior Off-Season Pass for individuals 62 or over, offers free camping minus the $10 per night utility fee, which is $75 per year. An important takeaway from the slide is that the value of these discounts equate to about 17% of our earned revenue, or about $8 million per biennium. A little background. Many of these passes have not been reviewed in decades. We've heard that the Commission sees this as a way of meeting our current priorities. In June of 2024, we held a cross-agency meeting discussing program strategy and developed options for consideration. And earlier this month, we presented these options to the agency's leadership team. After much discussion, we have developed a few considerations for program strategy. Revenue and cost savings could include large-scale statutory and WAC changes aimed at optimizing revenue. This could safeguard the agency's earned revenue, but would have to go through the lengthy legislative process. Another option would focus on adding program integrity. We could focus on changes that can be made within parks with the goal of ensuring past benefits go to the communities they were intended for. These changes could all be made at the commission or policy level, but would not address the risks to the agency's budget. After talking with our leadership team, we've identified some considerations to optimize revenue. We could explore charging reservation and change fees to the lifetime disabled veteran pass holders. This has the potential of saving the agency over $400,000 annually. The cost to customers would be $8 to $10 per transaction. This option has significant cost savings, but could be politically sensitive. We could also explore increasing the senior off-season pass fee from $75 to $100 per year and redefine the dates the off-season pass is valid. We sell about 2,600 passes per year. Currently, the off-season pass pays for itself after 4 nights of camping. A fee increase could generate revenue increase of $45,000 annually. This plan would include working with field and other stakeholders to redefine the off-season period and sales dates for the pass. We've identified a few areas that could improve program integrity. It's come to our attention that using the Social Security Administration 1099 form for senior limited income pass approval does not capture the applicant's total income. Multiple instances of applications submitted with a 1099 and with other income documents have shown other sources of income, such as a W-2 or tax transcript. Field staff have also reported pass holders who claim to have other forms of income exceeding the threshold. We could address this by updating the WAC to ask applicants who choose to apply with a 1099 to also provide a letter of non-filing from the IRS, which is quick, easy, and free to obtain. We'd like to consider updating the WAC to include program rules. Currently, program rules are scattered across multiple WACs and an RCW, making rule interpretation difficult for staff. The off-season pass WAC has no rules referenced at all. We could address this by adding program rules to the WAC with the goal of cleaning up the WACs and removing repeated information, similar to the foster family WAC, creating one source of truth. We'd also like to review and potentially add alternative forms of residency documents used to obtain a pass, making the program more inclusive and easier to access. This would involve an update to the WAC. And now I'll pass it over to Claire to discuss a limited income pass.
Thanks, Ariel. Can you tell we've rehearsed? So I wanted to, as I mentioned, we did not want to lose sight of this initiative and really wanted to talk about both the benefits and some of the research that we did. Again, just to recap, creating a limited income pass could look like, what we've looked at is essentially just expanding the senior limited income pass to take away the age restriction. We have goals around removing barriers to access for underrepresented populations. We have goals around having better access for youth, underrepresented communities. Only 60% of our campers report that they are not bringing children with them as they're camping, which was a number that I was shocked by, having grown up being drug out to the wilderness as a child. Gleefully, might I add, I was surprised that many people did not have children camping with them. Creating, lowering and reducing this one barrier could really help with that. and it just potentially diversifying the demographics of our visitors. There's a lot of really good reasons to do this. And when we had looked at options for offsetting costs, a big one would have been if we pursued a Discover Pass fee increase, some of that could be used to offset this pass. As I mentioned, our budget situation is different than when we started doing this work sort of in earnest last summer. So what we had looked at was that potential camping revenue impacts could be about $3.5 million. That number these are very rough estimates, but just so you know where that number came from, we looked at SNAP benefit recipients in the state and estimated about 10% of those recipients would use this pass. We estimated that number because that's roughly the percentage of people utilizing the foster family pass. So there's about 10% of people eligible for that program. So again, it is rough math, but I think kind of provides an estimate. This doesn't include other potential impacts, things around day use, boat launch, trailer dumps, and then any staffing impacts due to either increased visitation. There could certainly be additional questions coming into the information center, particularly during a transition period as this pass got up and rolling. There could be potential, we would likely need some sort of data sharing agreement or some other situation to connect with DSHS. We have talked to them about what that could look like in theory. But there would be IT impacts, staffing impacts, other things. So that doesn't kind of include administrative overhead of getting this set up. So with that, we just wanted to present the information, share the work, and we have done this. We've heard that this is something you're all very interested in, certainly something that the agency is interested in as well, and just kind of wanted to present that information to you and open up that conversation.
Thank you. I knew I was going to do that.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us here, and we'd like to open it up for discussion questions.
Sorry. Claire, just back to the previous slide. I think there's some data that you all have that could be very helpful for the conversation that was presented, I believe, in our, I can't remember if it was our November, October meeting, where you have some really good data on who's actually coming to camp. And I think people are really quite surprised at how old they are. But maybe, I don't know if you have that on the top of your head, but.
I don't have the exact ages. I do remember the 60% number. So 60% of campers are not bringing children with them to camp. Broadly speaking, and we can certainly pull these numbers back up, but broadly speaking, we do know that campers are older, middle to high income, and identify as white. So it's a particularly notable lack of diversity within the camping population. I think that was the November meeting in case anybody's looking for it. Yeah.
Commissioner Latimer.
I think I have a few questions. Sure, the timing is the best, but so maybe I missed, maybe it was on one of the slides. I don't know if I missed it, but what was the threshold for limited income? What is the income threshold?
So it's $40,000, or if you qualify for a property tax exemption for your state, which they do vary from for your county, and they vary by county. So we go off of the third tier of every county's income threshold for property tax exemption.
Okay. And you mentioned something about trying using
For income verification.
something other than the Social Security
So we
1099.
don't want to remove the Social Security 1099. We'd like to ask that applicants include a letter of non-file that they can get from the IRS, which basically shows that they don't have other sources of income. Because there's so many different tax documents out there that the SSA 1099 is just a slice of the pie for some people, but others it is the whole pie. So that letter of non-filing would show us, yep, that's all, and we can issue you the pass confidently, or it will show that they have filed taxes, and we get to see the whole picture.
Okay, so that's so that 40,000, is it household or is it per the individual
If they are, senior limited income allows you to apply with a spouse. So if you have a spouse, it's both people's income. If you are unpartnered, it's your single income.
Okay. And then the other question I had was regards to some of you mentioned change fees, reservation fees with veterans. Can you go a little bit more into what that is?
So currently, lifetime disabled veteran pass holders get to camp for free in our parks, and that includes reservation, change fees, cancellation fees, which is charged by our reservation vendor, Camus. So we pay those fees every time those reservations are made or canceled or changed. And in order to generate more revenue and safeguard proper use of their pass, we'd be interested in exploring charging just the reservation and change fee, not the cancellation fee.
Okay, because I know that, I don't know if it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I know it's been multiple times during my tenure that has come up as an issue, that there are certainly some disabled veteran customers that have been abusing that privilege. Is that still being an issue?
Unfortunately, it is. The majority of our pass holders are excellent guests and follow our rules willingly and happily. There is some pass misuse that we do have to manage that takes up a significant portion of time.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question regarding the default rates among those who actually are getting no camping fees. You know, they make a reservation, especially like veterans, you know, those who pay 50% and all. What are the default rates that if they were to cancel and just not show, the no-show, that's what I mean. What would that do, you know, when it comes to revenue? If that reservation is turned over to somebody else that is waiting. And if you don't have the information right now, it's okay. But you know, no shows on all kinds of industries create a big revenue problem.
Yeah.
So how big is a problem for parks?
I would say no-shows are our number one pass misuse issue. I am the person that follows up with all of the pass rule violations that we get from field staff and from our reservation system. And that is by far the majority of the letters that I'm sending out is no showing.
We could circle back with the revenue calculation based on like the reports that we have.
But yeah, we can get back with more specific data.
We have
Thank
that
you.
data for you.
It's a great question. And hello, welcome.
This actually came up in conversations with legislators yesterday.
Mm.
So it would be good, you all have great data. It would be good to know the context or the size of the issue.
That's
so
great.
So that we can share that back with a couple members that asked specifically about that.
That is great. And you're not a plant, but that's exactly the kind of feedback we're looking for. Yeah. Because if it is something, basically, if it was a hard, like, no, we don't want to pursue this, we could drop it. But yes, we absolutely can get you back some more data if that's something you're interested in at least looking at.
Yeah, and it can be high level. It's like.
Yeah.
Second thing, I thought I just heard you say that you have or may have access to full IRS information. Do you? Wow.
Well, no.
That we have access or we?
Yes.
No, we do not
Okay,
have
all right,
access.
all right, all right, all right.
We request that the individual work with the IRS. There's a very friendly online portal, or you can, you know, sign up and they'll mail you your record.
The letter, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want full access.
No, thank you.
No, you don't want full access. It's a whole privacy issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams?
Okay, since we have some time.
Yeah.
I want to help sort of frame why we're in addition to the fact that we haven't looked at these past programs in a very long time, I think it's also important to look at these from the standpoint of our state and how it's changing. And I'm going to state some data that a number of you have already heard me say before, but I think it's really quite eye-opening to a lot of people. Between 2010, these are some numbers from OFM. Between 2010 and 2023, the state grew by 1.2 million people. Half of that growth was people over 60, half. Between 0 and 4, there were actually minus 8,500 kids. So, you know, I think what we can do to make camping attractive to families is important from an equity reason, from a standpoint of growing outdoor recreationalists of the future. And in addition, about half of our students in the state of Washington are on free and reduced lunch. So when we are looking at a limited income pass, I personally feel pretty strongly it should not be just about seniors. I will give yeah. So, and I applaud you just sort of looking at some program integrity considerations. I think everything that you've listed here merits further review and discussion. That's on the program integrity considerations. Then on the next slide, taking notes, sorry. Oh, wait, back to the program. I'm sorry, the program integrity considerations. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm done there. I'm probably next one. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
That one.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, it seems reasonable. You know, we want to support our disabled veterans, but it seems reasonable to ask people to pay for the reservation and change fees. These are fees that we have really no control over. And you do want to discourage sort of, you know, misuse of the past, if you will, I guess. Did you want to say something?
I do to be able to support that. I'm registered with Oregon also because they have a reciprocity agreement when it comes to disabled veterans and their passes, and they charge the fee. So we have already a sister state that actually charges the reservation fee because as us, they have a vendor who does the reservations for them.
Exactly.
And that's, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of gets to the point that when was the last time the off-season pass, senior pass was raised?
10 plus years ago.
Okay, so as we're considering fee increases for everything, this seems like a reasonable something to consider. The next, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Was there one other slide, or was that?
There's program integrity and.
Right. We spoke to that. Okay.
And then scoping of the limited income.
Yeah.
Okay. I think those are basically my comments for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Merriman?
Off-season pass adjusted by WAC or statute?
Okay.
By whack.
I think that would be good in future conversations as you put those up, which ones are WAC and which ones are statutory.
Yes.
That would be a good framing for what we might or might have to do, because particularly if it's a change to statute, that's time involved way ahead.
Right. And that would be true for the transaction fees for, yes.
So that was one of my questions. So for the disabled veteran pass, are the reservation and change fees, the inability to charge, is that in the statute?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be one we need to do there. And then when you estimated for the limited income pass expansion, when you said 3.5 million revenue, is that annually or is that biannually?
That's annually.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a $7 million on the biennial budget. Okay. Any further questions? I would say I really appreciate the work you have been doing on this and appreciate you bringing it back, because I do think that, we have been very interested in making sure that our passes are serving the people that they're intended to serve, and also making it work with our systems that we use. So I think I really appreciate the work you've been doing.
We look forward to future presentations.
You know it. We cannot wait. I also just want to give a shout out to the hard work that they do on all of this, including they are part of the centralized customer service team. They manage about 30,000 customer contacts each year amongst a very small group, and really work with a customer service first attitude. So this is one part of that. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, huh? Oh, great. Okay. We are moving ahead. Our next agenda item, we're moving up the Centennial Accord Tribal Relations. And it says to call on Jenna, but is she on?
Jenna's not here.
Oh, okay. I'm going to call on Director Dupuy to introduce us this presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Connolly. Unfortunately, our Tribal Relations Director, Jenna Bowman, will not be able to join us today. Fortunately, though, we have our Assistant Tribal Relations Director here, JJ McMines, and JJ is more than capable of leading us through this discussion. And JJ, we really do appreciate you stepping up today and stepping in early and batting for Jenna. So thank you very much.
Good morning, Commission. Thank you, Director Dupuy. I'm here today to talk about our work updating the Centennial Accord Plan that was last submitted to the Governor's Office of Indian Affairs back in 1989. The state of Washington and federally recognized tribes put together this plan. Federally recognized tribes and tribes who have treaty reserved rights within the state of Washington. It recognizes tribal sovereignty. It establishes the government-to-government relationship, and the agency directors are responsible. It was the parties share a desire for a complete accord between the state of Washington and the tribes, reflecting full government-to-government relationship, and will work with the elements of state and tribal governments to achieve such accord. The Chief of Staff of the Governor of the State of Washington is accountable to the Governor for implementation of this accord. State agency directors are accountable to the Governor through the Chief of Staff for related activities of their agencies. Each director will initiate a procedure within his or her agency by which the government-to-government policy will be implemented. The parties recognize that implementation of this accord will require a comprehensive educational effort to promote understanding of government-to-government relationship within their own governmental organizations and with the public. Here we go. So in 1999, the tribes and the state came back together and looked back over the last 10 years and said, what can we do to improve on the original accord? And then this time around, there was a particular focus on natural resources. Understanding the tribe's legal and political status as governments was also really high on the list. Developing enduring channels of communication and timely resolution, as well as developing consultation processes, protocols, and action plans within agencies. Educating citizens on the contributions of tribes in the state of Washington is also very important. Collaborate to create mutual understanding and respect for fighting discrimination and racial prejudice was also recognized. So developing these processes, protocols, and action plans will move us forward on the Centennial Accord promise that the parties will continue to strive for complete institutionalization of the government-to-government relationship by seeking an accord among the tribes and all elements of state government. Then around 2012, you will see RCW 43376 in educating our citizens of our state about tribal history, culture, treaty rights, contemporary tribal and state government institutions and relations, and the contributions of Indian nations to the state of Washington to move us forward on the Centennial Accord promise. That parties recognize implementation of this accord will require a comprehensive educational effort. And this RCW identifies someone like Jenna as the tribal liaison that reports directly to the head of agencies. It has requirements for training, submitting this annual Centennial Accord Plan update, and making reasonable efforts to coordinate with tribes on the development of policies, agreements, and program implementation. And most notably, our team is looking at developing a change management approach, right, to developing consultation processes within the agency. So agency Centennial Accord plans. It is recognized that these plans will vary among state agencies. However, the basic policy and guidance included in these government-to-government implementation guidelines should govern the development of these plans and be embraced by both state and tribal officials. Each state agency Centennial Accord plan should be completed prior to the annual state tribal Centennial Accord meeting with the governor. These plans will be included as attachments to this document and reviewed annually. Plans include the role of the agency director to develop and implement a government-to-government consultation policy. The plan is the procedure for implementing that policy, be updated annually and then submitted to the Governor's Office of Indian Affairs, and to be developed in conjunction with the tribes. It'll include key components such as funding, programs, definitions, consultation process, and a dispute resolution process. GOIA, Governor's Office of Indian Affairs, has provided a template for most agencies to use. We look forward to some changes that are happening, including at the Governor's Office of Indian Affairs Director. Former Director Craig Bill served for about 20 years. And we look forward to some new changes coming and new guidance from the new director. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions? Commissioner Merriman?
Let's see. Last December, when I wasn't the commissioner, but was at the planning meeting.
Oh.
Up in Toledo.
Oh, yeah.
We had, I say we, because you included me. There was a conversation about exploring the notion of somebody from the commission also attending the Accord. Because our sister agency, Fish and Wildlife, a commission member attends the Accord, and I've been to 20 plus my years of service. And so you don't have a speaking role. You just sit there and you're observing. And the most important stuff that occurs is the side hall or the break conversations with tribal members and or the agency staff. So it's something that I would like us to explore.
And I would like to echo that in that this is a really important agency. And if at least at a minimum to be able to have a collaboration with Fish and Wildlife and actually be part of and, be part of the Centennial Accord and hopefully in the future be able to actually present, and that requires, coordination with the governor's office and GOIA and all that. But it's time. I think it's time.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? No. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Holly. All right. Thank you, JJ.
thank you for your time. And I thank all of the staff in the agency for being open and doing all of the good work with us. Thank you.
Thank you. So we continue to be ahead of schedule, and I think the plan at this point is to go into executive session early. So the commission will enter into executive session at 11:05 to discuss potential litigation and review the performance of a public employee with the commission's assigned legal counsel pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101I and RCW 42.30.1101G. The commission will be in executive session. And
break for lunch at the.
yes, we will still break for lunch.
We can do till 11:50 then, and then
Okay,
reconvene
till
again.
11:50, and we may reconvene afterwards. No action will be taken during the executive session. The commission will adjourn after the conclusion of the executive session. Yeah. Okay. Okay.